Today, we are not simply reviewing the life and work of the brilliant Richard Pryor. We are trying to decipher a cultural phenomenon, a man who reshaped the way we see comedy, who opened up new horizons for the rawness, honesty, and deepest human depths on the comedy stage. Richard Pryor did not just tell jokes. He told his own story, the story of his community, and the story of an America struggling with deep social contradictions. The life of Richard Franklin Lennox Thomas Pryor III began on December 1, 1940, in Peoria, Illinois, in circumstances that many would probably try to forget. His mother was a prostitute, and his father a pimp, both working in the brothel run by his grandmother. Pryor's childhood was not a rosy one. It was a world of complexity, violence, money, and sex, an environment where a child could hardly figure out right from wrong. But it was that very furnace, that human chaos, that forged a sensitive soul and an astonishingly keen eye for life. In that chaotic world, Pryor found escape, comfort in movies. One fateful moment, when his father took young Richard to the cinema to see a Jerry Lewis film, his father's uncontrollable laughter planted a profound realization in Pryor's young mind. Comedy could be an escape, a way to connect, and even a way to liberate. Entering his 20s, Pryor left Peoria and headed to New York, with aspirations of becoming an artist. His early impressions in show business were of a natural talent, a brilliant storyteller, with a special gift for the unknown. His early television appearances, such as On Broadway Tonight, began to attract attention, revealing a rising star. However, the constraints of the traditional entertainment world, with its strict standards and reticence toward sensitive topics, gradually became a narrow cage for Pryor. He felt he was being compromised, having to sell out his uniqueness and authentic voice to fit the tastes of white audiences. This internal struggle led to a crucial turning point in his career. Pryor decided to shed his safe shell, fully embrace his black identity, and bring a new style of comedy that was bold and breathtakingly honest. He spoke about things others avoided: drugs, police brutality, social injustice, painful personal issues. Audiences went wild for his uncompromising honesty. Pryor opened the door that all future comedians would walk through, paving the way for a new era of frank, socially conscious comedy. From small clubs to big stages, from television to the big screen, Pryor's career took off. He starred in hits like Stir Crazy, Brewster's Millions, and Superman III. In the early 80s, just having the name Richard Pryor on a movie poster was almost guaranteed box office success. But behind the glitter, Pryor struggled with his own inner demons. His Hollywood Hellraiser reputation was no fluke. Pryor was known for his alcoholism and his promiscuous lifestyle, filled with all-night parties. Looking back at his life, it can be seen that Pryor started drinking in his 20s. Alcohol seemed to become an indispensable part of his creative process, a lubricant for his humorous ideas. But over time, it became a shackle, and a destroyer. Those close to Pryor recall that he often drank hard liquor first thing in the morning, and that drunkenness seemed to be a constant presence in his life. By his early 30s, the signs of alcoholism were all too obvious. Alcoholism is a complex disease, rooted in a mix of psychological and genetic factors. And looking back at Pryor's troubled childhood, with witnessing domestic violence and his mother turning to alcohol to cope with life, it is not difficult to understand why he fell into addiction. Statistics show that the children of alcoholics are 4 times more likely to become alcoholics themselves. Throughout the 1970s, Pryor continued to indulge in alcohol, and when his drinking began, the darkness within him also emerged. He became aggressive, threatening people, even shooting at cars. His own Mercedes-Benz was once a victim of drunken rage. Many artists often have a conflict between the light on stage and the darkness within their souls. There are, perhaps, for Pryor, alcohol became a way to escape the pain and hauntings of the past. But the price was too high. Excessive drinking can lead to liver failure, and without a liver transplant, the risk of cardiac arrest and death is very high. However, Photos taken of Pryor just a few months before his death showed no signs of jaundice, a common symptom of liver failure. This suggests that, although alcohol did cause significant damage to his body, it was probably not the direct cause of his fateful cardiac arrest. Along with alcohol, cocaine quickly became a part of Pryor's daily life. Boom! As soon as you open your eyes. That's how those who knew him described Pryor's attachment to this dangerous stimulant. In the mid-1970s, when Pryor's career was at its peak, cocaine use seemed to not only hinder him, but also fuel him. His first hosting gig on NBC's Saturday Night Live was a testament to that. Despite his cocaine use and backstage drinking, Pryor kept his cool and delivered a dazzling performance, especially his word association sketch with Chevy Chase, which became a classic television moment. For many addicts, the motivation to stop often comes from the negative effects the addiction has on their lives, relationships, and jobs. But for Pryor, it seemed that those barriers didn't exist. Perhaps he had convinced himself that cocaine was the secret to his success, but his body certainly paid a heavy price for his continued drug use. Cocaine has often been described as the perfect heart attack drug because of its devastating effects on the cardiovascular system. Pryor's spending on cocaine sometimes ran into the thousands of dollars. At the height of his career, he was drinking heavily and using huge amounts of cocaine. The combination of the two substances in Pryor's system created a third substance called cocaethylene. This had similar effects to cocaine but lasted much longer, and also increased the damage that cocaine did to Pryor's cardiovascular system. By 1977, at age 37 with a fortune from his movies, Pryor was spending $250,000 a year on cocaine. Those close to him witnessed Pryor's rampant, self-destructive behavior due to the effects of the drug. In November 1977, Pryor returned to Peoria for his grandmother's 78th birthday. Back in his old neighborhood, near the brothel where he grew up, Pryor fell back into his old habits. He overdosed on cocaine, causing his body temperature to rise and his heart rate to skyrocket. Cocaine causes blood vessels to constrict, pushing his blood pressure to dangerous levels. Pryor's heart began to race, spasm, and stop for a moment. He had suffered a heart attack. Fortunately, at age 37, Pryor survived his first heart attack, and his brain appeared to be intact. The question, however, is whether the fatal cardiac arrest Pryor suffered at age 65 was also a result of his cocaine use. By the end of his life, Pryor was nearly paralyzed by MS and had difficulty speaking. The disease significantly limited his drug use. Therefore, it is possible to rule out the possibility that his death was caused by an acute heart attack caused by cocaine. But there is no doubt that decades of drug use and alcohol consumption had severely weakened his heart over time. And his medical records show that, after his first heart attack, Pryor's drug use did not decrease. In 1979, Pryor began using Freebase, a much more dangerous form of cocaine. Freebase is cocaine that has been processed so that it can be smoked rather than snorted. The drug's potency does not increase, but the effects become more intense. However, after the euphoria wears off, users may experience anxiety, paranoia, and hallucinations. In June 1980, Pryor used Freebase continuously for 5 days without sleeping. He also drank 75 proof rum and used it to light a pipe to smoke the drug. Pryor fell into a state of cocaine-induced psychosis. The cocaine he smoked caused a chemical imbalance in his brain, rendering him incapable of making rational decisions. During his psychotic episode, Pryor saw a scene on television of a Vietnamese monk setting himself on fire. He poured rum over himself and set himself on fire. Pryor suffered severe burns to 50% of his body. Such severe burns put a lot of stress on all organs, especially the heart. So did these horrific injuries contribute to his fatal cardiac arrest in December 2005? After the accident, Pryor underwent extensive, painful treatment at a burn center. He underwent skin grafts and reconstructive surgery. Although he was scarred for life, he did not appear to have suffered any physical damage. Long-term heart failure. Doctors gave Pryor less than a 50% chance of survival. But Incredibly, he was released from the hospital after just 6 weeks. So it's possible that the burns played a direct role in Pryor's death. After the fire, Pryor was forced to kick his drug addiction, and just a year later, the seemingly unbreakable man was back on stage, turning his suicide attempt into a comedy routine. It was so stupid it was insane, he said of his actions. Pryor used comedy to cope with all the hardships in his life. Although Pryor claimed to have cleaned up his life, experience shows that decades of substance abuse certainly took a toll on his body. And Dr. Hunter found a medical condition listed on Pryor's death certificate, diagnosed shortly before his death, that seems to support this. In December 2004, a year before Pryor died, he was almost completely paralyzed and had difficulty speaking due to Around this time, Pryor was also diagnosed with kidney failure. The kidneys play a vital role in the cardiovascular system. In addition to removing waste, they also regulate the amount of water and salt to control blood pressure. If the kidneys are damaged, it can put undue pressure on the heart. This was an important finding. One of the most common causes of kidney failure is high blood pressure, so it is possible that Pryor's years of debauchery had finally taken their toll. In December 2004, Pryor's wife, Jennifer, arranged for a dialysis machine to be installed in his home. Pryor needed to be hooked up to the machine for 4 hours a day, 3 times a week to remove toxins from his body. Even with dialysis, heart failure remains the leading cause of death in people with kidney failure. So Dr. Hunter believes this was likely a contributing factor to Pryor's death, but he still doesn't think it's the whole story. At 6:30 a.m. on December 10, 2005, Pryor's personal nurse realized he was in danger. The nurse called 911 but hung up in a panic. When Pryor went into cardiac arrest, his heart developed an irregular rhythm and was unable to pump blood to vital organs, such as the brain. If this continued, the brain would stop functioning and the patient would die. At 6:33 a.m., Pryor's wife, Jennifer, received a call from the nurse. She immediately drove to the house and called 911 again. The medical team instructed Jennifer to perform CPR. When a person goes into cardiac arrest, it is vital to maintain blood flow to vital organs, especially the brain. CPR helps to do this by pressing hard on the chest, creating artificial blood circulation. At 6:50 a.m., paramedics arrived, loaded Pryor into an ambulance, and rushed him to Inino General Hospital. It was a race against time. If his heart was not restarted soon, his brain would be starved of oxygen and die. Pryor was injected with adrenaline, a chemical that stimulates the body, which helps to concentrate blood around the brain and heart by constricting blood vessels, while also stimulating the heart muscle, increasing the chance that the heart will return to a normal rhythm. Doctors tried to restart his heart with a defibrillator, a device that can deliver an electric shock to bring the heart back to a normal rhythm. They tried again, but Pryor's heart still wouldn't start. Due to the lack of oxygen, Pryor's organs began to fail and his brain stopped functioning. At 7:58 a.m. on December 10, 2005, doctors pronounced Richard Pryor dead. America was shocked by the loss of a comedy icon. Public grief was evident in the wreaths and tributes to his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. For many, it was a sad but not unexpected moment. After a long battle with MS, Pryor died of cardiac arrest. But it appears that alcohol and drug abuse were not the only factors that led to his death. Dr. Hunter discovered another factor in Pryor's past that may have played a role. In the 1980s, there was speculation that Richard Pryor may have been infected with HIV. About 20% of people with HIV die of heart attacks or cardiac arrest, often years after initial infection. So was Pryor's fatal cardiac arrest the result of his contracting the disease of the century? In 1985, Hollywood was gripped by fear when movie legend Rock Hudson died of a new disease that was ravaging the gay community. When Pryor appeared unusually thin, rumors began to spread. With his troubled love life and rebellious behavior, many people believed that Pryor might have contracted AIDS. Pryor himself denied the rumors in a 1986 interview with journalist Barbara Walters, and Dr. Hunter believes this is true. There was no mention of AIDS on Pryor's death certificate. and his weight loss was clearly. MS causes muscle wasting. However, Dr. Hunter found on Pryor's death certificate that he also had coronary artery disease, a very important finding. This is the leading silent killer in the United States and the leading cause of cardiac arrest. So what caused Richard Pryor's coronary artery disease? Those close to Pryor say that in addition to alcohol and drugs, he was a heavy smoker. Richard smoked up to 3 packs a day, and I'm sure that affected him. How could it not? It seems that, unlike other addictions, MS did not slow Pryor down on his smoking habit. It is said that he still smoked up to 60 cigarettes a day. Smoking is one of the main causes of coronary artery disease. The chemicals in cigarettes can damage the inner lining of the coronary arteries, leading to plaque buildup and eventual blockage. Apparently, Pryor had been a heavy smoker for nearly 40 years, putting him at a very high risk for the disease. But there was another factor in Pryor's life that Dr. Hunter believes also contributed to his fatal disease, and this time it had nothing to do with his wild past. Another major risk factor for developing coronary artery disease is family history. Pryor's father, Leroy Buck Carter Pryor, died at age 53 of cardiac arrest, and his death certificate listed coronary insufficiency as the cause. So, regardless of Pryor's alcohol and drug abuse, it's likely that he would have suffered from the condition as well. About 14 years before his death, Richard Pryor's coronary artery disease had become so severe that he had to undergo coronary artery bypass surgery. But it wasn't a cure, and as he continued to smoke, his coronary arteries became clogged again over time. On December 10, 2005, Richard Pryor's heart stopped. Although his wife performed CPR and emergency room medical staff tried to restart his heart, all efforts were in vain. In many ways, Pryor's death was not unusual. Coronary artery disease kills hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. But what was unusual was the amount of strain that Richard Pryor's heart had endured before he died. And what was amazing to Dr. Hunter was not that he died at age 65, but that he survived as long as he did. Richard Pryor was a man who combined the spirit of the counterculture with the spirit of the Black Power movement, the struggle for Black freedom, and he turned it into comedy. He completely changed the cultural DNA of America in the process. He was a fascinating, unique, different, brilliant, creative man. His very existence was a force, and that force is gone. He endured a lot in his life, but he survived, he went on. You can't knock him down. He may still be out there somewhere, cursing us, but he's still there, in the hearts of those who laughed and cried with him. Richard Pryor's legacy is not just the laughs he brought. It was his courage to face the truth, his gut-wrenching honesty, and his ability to turn personal pain into a powerful, resonant, meaningful voice for a generation. He was a beacon of creativity and resilience, a testament to the power of laughter to heal and connect. We will always remember Richard Pryor, who dared to be himself and changed the world of comedy forever. What do you think about Richard Pryor's death? Leave a comment below. We hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.